Alright, Section 7, Control Equipment. The TM55 1263 Department of the Army Technical Manual Locomotive Diesel Electric 56.5 inch gauge 65 ton CO440 400 horsepower General Electric Cummins engine model HBIS 600 United Department of the Army March 1955. Section 7 Control Equipment. The 95 the 17K 27A1 controller. The controller consists of a small drum with three phosphorus bronze fingers mounted in the back with a removable cover. The operator with the means of removable lever that serves the control of the position of reverse, hence the direction of locomotive movement. The fingers should be tested periodically to see that they have sufficient pressure of the thumb contacts to ensure the good contact. The film grease should be applied with the cylinder with lubrication inspection period to prevent cutting of the fingers and segment. Carefully should be taken to note that they use too much lubrication as it will to collect under the fingers and cause poor contact. The fingers should be renewed and when worn down about halfway to the contact point. After such time, the fingers do not provide a satisfactory star wheel action. The controller mechanically interact with the throttle mechanism, preventing moving of the controlling handle all times except when the throttle handle is in the on position, idling, or in the idle position. It should, however, be possible to move the throttle handle at all times, regardless of the control handle position. Interlocking should be connected, checked as inspection period to see if it's working properly. 96 ME78C2 reverser. The reverser is operated with a double-cylinder air engine controlled with the two with the one on the type magnetic valve. The reversers interlock with it. They cannot be thrown except with the motor contractor open. The reverser does not carry any of the current. No roughness should be caused by burning, and any roughness be developed due to the other causes should be removed by the file. The frequent inspection should be made with the guard and against the weak fingers, poor contact, or loose connections. The contact should be cleaned with the necessary lubricated with a thin film or grease. The reverser should be tested at operation with the pressure of the valve at the top of the magnet valve, the operating of the slow segment bearing, as well as lubricated cylinders, probably dry and will require oiling. Sluggish action of the reverser may also be caused by the sticking or leaking magnet valves. Alright, all maintaining contact, adjusting the step periodically inspected with ensure the proper contact is always obtained between the fingers and segments while in contact. Alright, this shows the armature winding installation of the GHM motor. This shows the speed tractive effort scale. This shows the motor characteristic curve scale. Tire pressure also can be variable. Slightly adjusting of the screw should be not used for this purpose, but only with the adjustment compensation for the finger wear. When the properly adjusted with the tip of the pressure should become within the limits specified with the paragraph 97 of the weak of the broken finger should be replaced with the following procedure will be followed. Place a strip in the thin paper between the individual fingers and segments and turn the back of the adjusting screws until the paper can be easily pulled out. Turn down the adjusting screw until the space between fingers locking pin in the 27/30 seconds an inch. All control fingers should be periodically inspected to ensure the making of the proper the contact, adjusting the proper amount with leaving the segment. This will produce the proper pressure unless the spring is at the fault, with which the case is to be renewed for the care of the adjusting of the magnet valve. The use of the reverser with the instruction given the paragraph 98. Alright, data ME78C2 reverser. Capacity 400 amperes. Continual main contact data. The finger pressure of the segment of 15 to 20 pounds for each of the individual figure. Wearing allowance 1 at G, 1G for G, 1G of an inch. The control finger data of the finger pressure for the segment 2 to 5 pounds. Wearing allowance halfway through permissible drop with leaving the segment 3/32 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch. Magnet valve coil data GE number 204. 5158 resistance 25 Celsius 145 ohms 98 of the magnet valve. The following instruction will cover the care of the maintenance of the magnet valves which are used to actuate the reverse of the reversers are all open on the open top of the cross-sectional view with the open enclosed with the coil valve that's shown in figure 21-22. The valve, the double action type that has the inlet exhaust port as well as support of the connecting the operation cylinder. This valve constructed with the coil with the energized with the exhaust port with the closed with the inlet port of the open as many with the air with the reserve of the operating cylinder. The coil is energized with the inlet port with the closed with the exhaust port open with the content of the cylinder to atmosphere. When the valves are sticky, they should be washed with a kerosene or petroleum cleaner as pour little kerosene or the petroleum cleaner through the magnet cord to clean the valve seat. When the valves are removed, the care should be taken to ensure that each of the valves is returned to their own seat on each of the stem, the ground, and fits its own seat. When the new valve is installed, when the repairing of the leakage must be in ground with a good heat, with the obviously obtained with all the grinding material should be blown out with the air, with the valve washed with the kerosene or other petroleum cleaner, with the larger number of the valves should be grounded with the cost of the reduce the usual special reamers in the valve seats before the valves are grounded in. After the air gap of the trap of the magnet valve should be periodically measured with the gap gauge of the GE 149973-3. Figure 25 and 26 is arranged with the four measuring gaps should be used in the check. If this applies, the adjustment of the new valve, the measurements are made by removing the magnet valve with the core of the armature at 0.32 thousandths of an inch of the gap. The gauge is placed over the upper stem of the plunger, pressed down, and the steam of the exhaust valve. The air should not escape the exhaust valve if the air passes through the new valves and should be installed. The G valve. G. The valve travel is stamped on the bottom of the surface of the cap of the plug on the magnet valve. H. When installing the new valve, the following measurements should be taken using the gap gauge GE 149973-3, placing the 52 thousandths of an inch gap over the exhaust valve with the step, and the pass down with the valve stem is with the correct length of the exhaust valve. With the C of the air will not pass through it, and leg of the gauge of the rest on the magnet of the core. With the condition that not satisfied with the valve should be lengthened and shortened. With the exhaust valve stem is found to be short, it can be lengthened and a trifle, and be careful to be fully painting over the upper end after operating pin, cover, armature, magnet coil, magnet core, exhaust valve stem, magnet valve, exhaust valve, inlet valve, exhaust port valve, seat bushing, cylinder from reserve and from inlet valve of the car. Plug the enclosed coil on the open on-type magnet valve. Figure 22 is an open coil on type magnet valve. You cover the operating with the armature, the exhaust valve steam, the magnet coil, the magnet core, the exhaust port, the exhaust valve seat, the cylinder inlet valve, the inlet valve spring from the reservoir and cap plug. Figure 23 is a micro dial gauge for the adjusting magnetic valve. Figure 24 for the measuring of the micrometer dial gauge. Exhaust valve shell has been on the ground with the number of the times found with the exhaust valve stem with the standard length of the short. If you adjust with the column with above, the can be attained with this case. The overall length of the valve should be used. The valve stems are supplied with 1/16 of an inch longer with their own one furnished for the new valves. Figure 25 is an enclosed coil on the top of the magnet valve gauge for the proper of checking valve stem travel. And then figure 26, the open coil on the top of the magnet valve gauge for the proper placement of the checking valve to see the stem travel. 2. Using an 88 thousandth of an inch gap of the valve, the 36 thousandth of an inch travel, the 104 thousandth of an inch gap of the valve, the 52 thousandth of an inch travel, the proper gap of the exhaust valve, stem of the gauge less resisting the magnetic core of the top of the inlet valve of the stem, the proper length of the upper exhaust valve, so the stem from the flush of the gap surface, the air will not pass through the inlet valve. The air pressure for the inlet valve removes the small amount of the inlet valve stem, the space between the top of the exhaust upper valve with the stem gauge gap installs in the inlet valve with the lower stem. I'm sorry about this. It's just a stupid Kapowski thing. Kaspersky. To check the worn valve, place the 32,000 inch gap over the exhaust valve with the press the pros down. The exhaust valve does not scat. These are the air passing through the valve and install the new valve to take the measurement described above. In order to do this quickly, remove the magnet valve of the apparatus. Then can be done with quite readily taking out the two cap bolts near the bottom of the top valve. More accurate method of measuring the valves by using the standard micrometer with the gauge with the special figure 23 of the method using the gauge is illustrated in figure 24, but especially convenient where there are a large number of the valves are overheated with it, as well as the amount of the material to be removed from the new valves can be determined directly rather than by cutting or the trying the process. The proper valve stem the pressure measured above the magnetic valve of the core is given above in the paragraph 99. Magnetic valve. A. The OE type number 20515 57 travel to 36,000 inch G number 205158 resistance at 25 degrees Celsius 145 amps current operating pressure 0 to 93,000 for the amp at 100 pounds continuous current 3400 for the amp and apparatus use the ME78C2 reverser 4-sided the measuring the gauge G1499733 Wrench of the magnetic core G260513. The macro gauge the G2812735. Gauge of the caps to be used 36 thousandths of an inch. Travel the new valve. The valve de-energized with 88 thousandths of an inch. The valve energized with the 52 thousandths of an inch. Worn valve. The wear limits of 32,000 inches above the valve. The rail should be measured having the legs of the gauge rest of the top of the magnet core. All right, 102. Type of the 17C contactor. The contactor lightweight, single-pole magnetic operated with the bend of the frame with the construction used of the tray armature of the backer bearing with the contactor must be mounted to the supporting base of the vertical plane with the contactor to tip the up of the necessary with the contactor provided with the blowout with the coils air chute to assist the rupturing of the air with the air chute is easily moved, making the contact tips readily accessible. The contactor should be manually operated during the inspection and to detect the mechanical defections of the care which should be taken with the all circuits energized before the manually closing during doing any of the work on the contactor. The copper and contact should be kept and cleaned. If they become burned or pitted, they should be dressed up lightly with the application of fine file with extreme care should be taken to ensure that the fill line of the contact across the in between the two types of surfaces are filling. The tips are too badly pitted, but they should be renewed. The contact tips should also be renewed when they are worn halfway through. The contacts of 17CM, 15HH6 contactors are silver-faced, but this should require little attention if it becomes necessary to clean the contacts. Use a clean lintless cloth with carbon tetrahydrochloride with fine file. Do not use sandpaper. The memory cloth as they will leave harmful gain for the contact surface. If the files used, the care must be taken not to remove much of the material. The IC 17CM 12H15 contactors non-welded alloy contact tips. The copper, the color, and distinguished for the copper tip having the S identified with the side. Maintenance should be the same. The copper tips. The contact of the pressure should be checked periodically. To do this, insert the thin piece of the paper with the contacts. Fully close the armature mechanically by engineering the operating coils attached to the single spring to the balance with the wire string and up the necessary of the head of the spring holding up the moving. The contact tip of the balance should be then pulled to the perpendicular line of the contact until the paper can be easily moved. The whole of the instant the paper can be moved in contact with the tip of the pressure. Refer to the figure 27H. The type of the gap of the wire with the contact tip should be periodically with the type of the tip of the gap of the distance between when the contactor is fully open. The wipe the switch for the move the line of the final tip of the contact mentioned with the armor with the movement after the tip touches the distance for the movable tip would be movable in position as it was just the fixed up of the position. It would also be aware of the fixed tip of the place when the armature fully closed against the stop. The contactor is provided with the adjustment armature to obtain the positive opening with the operator and coil with the de-energized the spring properly adjusted with the factory, but does not require any of the further adjustments. And having the contactor disassembled the adjuster if the other were disturbed, the operating coil should be connected to the variable voltage source to pick it up the current checked against the specified figure 48. J. The contact tip should be renewed with the worn halfway through when the silver facing worn through the braided copper shunt of this shirt, which carries the current for the moving the contact of the contactor terminal should be inspected periodically renewed before base becomes badly worn or broken. Figure 27 shows the measuring of the final contact tip of the pressure armature fully closed as shown in with the twin paper wire thin paper wider than the tips. The wire strap must be clearly at arc chute. The support spring fully perpendicular with the line contact. Detailed paper can be easily moved. The armature fully closed as shown. Your data 17CM contactor of the contactor symbol, the locomotive of the diagram, and the amperes, continuous capacity, tip of the gap of the brake, the whip of the wipe of the wear and allowance, the initial pressure, final pressure catalog number, the resistance at 25 degrees Fahrenheit, approximate pickup of the amperes, and catalog number to blowout coil. 102 interlocks. The engine starting of the contactor provided with the electrical interlock. The interlock consists essentially with the contact bar attached with the contact armature with the insulation contact features which are attached with the contactor frame through the insulation contact pressure. The contact the wipe at the tip, the grab of the brake, but should be periodically inspected. This is seldomly necessary to check the excess pressure except when the contact is suspected of being fault with the wipe of the pressure to begin braking the given below in the C below. Both the stationary or the moving contact with silver face, which should require very little attention and becomes necessary to clean the contact contact using relentless cloth with wet and the carbon tetrachloride. With the use of the fine valve, do not use sandpaper, the emery cloth. These will leave harmful grains in the contact surface. If the file may be used, the care should be taken not to remove too much of the material. Contact parts should be placed when the silver facing has worn through. The interlock data. Contactors should be used in type of the 17AF 14H1 and type of the 17CM12J 15. Symbol is GS1 and GS21. Wipe the 32-inch, 5/32 tip of the gap of the rake at 62, 6/32 inch to 9/32 inch pressure of 8 ounces. 103 type DB1663A relay. The relay has a magnet valve that has a hinge with a spring-based armature with the armature carried with the insulation block with the which with the contact figures is assembled the fingered wedge with a spring mounted with the silver contact face for making the contact with a single silver face stationary contact stub. The DB1663A7 relay was used with the motor field with the shunting the control relay operates as a function with the generated relay voltage. The back because the voltage can be adjusted over the limited the range to change the de-energizing position of the armature. The hinge of the air gap, the adjusting of the domain with the mean of the adjustable armature stop, increase the opening air depth, increase the bolt, pick up the voltage. The dropout voltage can be adjusted with the changing of the tension spring which is attached with the armature to decrease the tension lower up the drop of the volt. There's increase and raise to be dropped out of the voltage. The pickup of the setting should always be rechecked after any changes are made. But the dropout setting is made will also be effective. The contacts being the silver face should be seldom require attention and it becomes necessary to clean the contacts that use the cleanliness, the lightness of the cloth wet with the carbon tetrachloride. Using a fine file, do not use sandpaper or emery with the cloth that will leave the harmful grains of the contact surface of the valve. You carefully must be taken to note not removed much of the material. The contact should be replaced when the silver facing has worn through. The contact tip pressure gauge with a gap. The wipe should be periodically checked against the well used given below. The wipe contacts making the relay pickup can be adjusted by screwing the stationary contact stud into the and out of into or out of when proper operation. Adjustment tip of the gap should always be equal or greater than the minimum value. Specify the tip gap, 1/8 of inch minimum. Wipe the 3/32 of inch minimum. And pressure 8 ounces minimum. 104, type 17HE9E1 control switches. Description of the cam operative of the switch having the 3 nominal opening contacts, 2 normally closed with the contacts with the switch idle position operative with the cams mounted with the 3 operating shaft, so that the position of the switch corresponding with the position of the throttle handle in the manner that the switch is used as a controller to control the operation of the traction motor of the generator, teaser field, the circuits, the inspection maintenance. All terminals contacts should be inspected with making sure that they are tight. The camshaft should be turned thoroughly in its operating range to make sure that it turns freely, that the good contact is made between the movable fingers and the stationary contacts. Both stationary and movable contacts have silver contacts. Surfaces should require little attention and becomes necessary to clean the contacts. Use the clean lintless cloth with the carbon tetrachloride. Use the fine file. Do not use sandpaper the emery cloth, as they will leave harmful grains in the contact surface of the file. The use of care must be taken not to remove too much of the material. The contact should be replaced when the silver facing has been worn through. The contact wipe, the tip gap should be checked periodically against the valve given below. The 17HE91 data, the tip of the gap is 11/32 to 3/32 of an inch. Drop or 3/32. The drop is 3/32 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch, and the pressure 3/4 to 1 pound. Alright, 105, the resistors. Various types of the resistors are used. The different circuit connections refer to the figure 28, 29, and 48. The type 17EW resistor furnished with the traction motor field shunting circuit. The resistor should be inspected periodically and ensure the tie rods and holding the end to units placed and are tight with all the connections. The tight insulation between the units should be kept clean at all times. Following out the dry compressed air, being careful with the pressure is not too high. The adjusting the type of the resistor furnished with the type of the 17 FR panels. The resistor panels will be provided with the R4 of the generator field circuit. The resistors should be inspected periodically to ensure the tie rods are tight with all the claps and terminal all the tight. The resistor windings should also be inspected to see that they are not broken and nickeled or may have any short circuit returns. Replace porcelain tubes if they are cracked or broken. D. Virtuous enameled resistor tubes are also provided with for generator field to light and heater circuits. They also beginning with the mounted on the type of the 17 FR panel. These resistors should be examined periodically to ensure the terminals are tight and the tubes have not been broken or damaged. Figure 28 shows the connecting diagram for the EW resistor. The figure 29 shows the connection diagram for the 17 FR11A13 resistor panel. The 106 type of the DO47 instrument. The instrument operated with the DA or Everson principle using the permanent magnet of the field of the coil on the moving element for the armature of the instrument should be periodically inspected to ensure the terminals are tight with the pointers or down zero where the pointers do not stick. The pointer may be on the set on zero, but the turning of the small screw with the located with the front of the cover of this screw means if allows a small cam change with the position of the metal piece with which the coil spring is attached, thus changing the tension of the spring moving to zero with the position of the pointer accordingly. Pointer may be tested with the sticking by electrically obtain maximum deflection and noting the results if the circuit is broken. If the pointer does not readily return to zero, the instrument should be removed from cleaning and calibration. No attempt should be made to adjust or remove the instrument from the circuit unless the certainty of the current is off that all the terminals and elements of the instrument are alive. When external shunts are used with the ammeter, the ammeter must be calibrated with the shunt the same with the current and the minimum millivoltage rating as the shunt with which it was to be used. The shunt leads must be also with approximately the same resistance as the leads with which the ammeter is to be used. Install shunts so that the metallic dirt dust cannot be without resistance. Strip of the short circuit with the shunt to keep the terminal screw with the tight of all the times. Do not allow the leads to become wet and thus short circuited with the artificial ventilation and not required for the temperature rise between 40 degrees to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 Celsius, or 72 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit above the ambient, and there should be enough ventilation to take care of this rise. When the voltmeters are provided with external resistance, care must be taken with the voltmeters calibrated with the use of external resistors. Section 8, Type 202G and 20223G generators.